Welcome to For and Against, the section where we review the pros and cons of an album that was released this week.
And today we turn our attention to the latest album by grindcore pioneers Napalm Death.
Now, I've never been furious enough in my life to appreciate the virtues of extremely aggressive music made by very, very angry men. Having said that, when I found out that the late great champion of subversive underground music, John Peel, had introduced them to his audience back in 1988, I knew then that if I ever wanted to dip my toe into the cesspool of abrasive grindcore, Napalm Death was the swimsuit to cover my buttocks. Now, I approached this album with enthusiastic wide ears, and I must say I was impressed with, for starters, the mixing. For these guys to stir up such a racket and still be able to hear every single instrument clearly it puts a lot of merit, shall we say, on producer Russ Russell, who also engineered, mixed and mastered the whole damn thing. Obviously, they are masters of their craft, and anyone who is initiated won't find this worthy of notice, but I am uninitiated, aren't I, Ben?
Well, we're both uninitiated, let's face it. Neither of us have been out in the grindcore wastelands, jumping up and down in massive body-less pits of physical confrontation. Not so much these days anyway. But I've got to say, I had a small sort of heavy thrash death metal phase back when I was roughly 12 years old. Very precocious 12 years old with an interest in this kind of thing. Oh. And I've kept an ear open for the death, as I like to call them, ever since. But yes, I wouldn't claim to be an expert. But, Johann, I got a theory.
Share it with me, Ben.
My
please.
theory is that Napalm Death are a funky band.
What?
They swing, they got funk. Alright, there's a lot of blast beats and grindcore and filth and shouting, but they're kind of quite funky when they do it. A few bass lines, the drum's got a bit of a swing to him, some of those riffs really rather funky, and that is what sets Napalm Death apart from the grindcore horde, that element of swing, funk and finesse.
I would never have used the word funky in the same phrase as Napalm Death, but I'm gonna listen to it again and give it that angle. Let's bear into account that this is their first album released in 5 years. It's the longest gap Napalm Death have ever had between an album, and I think good for them. It's time that artists should take breaks. What is this whole nuisance of having to release album after album every 2 years or ever, flooding the market with unnecessary product? Release it when it's necessary, and in this day and age, a bit of a good rant is more than necessary. I found this album to be purely cathartic. I was listening to it one morning, and I got into it by the third song. I was already sweating and sort of ready to take on the day, take on the government, take on the crappy news and all that stuff that happens in between. So it is, once again, we're listening to so many albums released during this whole weird year of pandemic that are cures, that are elixirs, that are balms for our ears and our soul. This album really is a welcome addition to the record collections of 2020.
So the thing is, what an actual sort of dustbin fire that 2020 has been. Isn't it remarkable that we're not just all listening to grindcore all of the time? Because we are all this angry. And funnily enough, a lot of people say in times like these you should listen to sort of relaxing, chill-out albums, and they'll make you kind of feel good. Those albums, on the whole, don't make me feel good. They don't relax me. They are the albums that get me angry because it's all a little bit bland. Whereas you listen to a bit of Napalm Death and it feels pretty good. It gets the body racing, the blood racing. You feel bad, you scream. You get over it in a way. It's very cathartic, very, very 2020. And, as you mentioned, it's their first album in 5 years, and it sounds like they've spent those 5 years really working at it, because there are lots of different sounding things on this. Okay, there's blast beats, there's grindcore, but also there's gothic songs, there's a Sonic Youth cover, there's songs that sound like Killing Joke, there's a bit of punk. It's a lot more varied than we would give them credit for.
I mean, I even went all the way back to listen to their first albums, Scum and From Enslavement to Obliteration, just so I could compare and see how they have evolved, and it is quite majestic. You know, they have always been famous for being the band that can play really fast and in a really short space of time. You know, short songs that were, well, they got the fastest song ever recorded, put to tape, the shortest song, shall I say. But I must say, they have been ambitious, they've been experimental. There is a song on this album that actually could fit right on a Swans album. And as you say, I could hear a bit of the Killing Joke, I could hear a bit of Ministry with some of the industrial textures, shall we say. So it really has widened and broadened their palette, much to the liking of their critics. All of the reviews I've read have been very favourable on this album, I must say.
I think it's fair to say I'm favourable, you're favourable, but this brings us a problem, Johann. Is this not the for and against?
I'm for this album. I don't know about you.
I am also for this album.
Well, isn't this for and against? Isn't one of us supposed to be against this album?
This is what I'm saying. You be against. I'm not being against.
I'm not going against.
I'm not going against.
Have you seen? You know what Napalm Death fans are like?
They've got a dead pigeon on the cover. I'm not going against that.
So let's just say that for the first time in the history of this program, we are both for this wonderful album by Napalm Death, who we would love to see play live in a near future.
Can we say 2 bloodied thumbs up that have been rent from the hand by an executioner's sword?
2 bloody thumbs up.